Good morning and welcome to Flashback Friday on Gaming with ADHD. Today we are beginning our dive into the world of Renegade Legion from FASA Games with Interceptor, the first title of the series of boxed games. Now, before we get started, this is going to be a somewhat regular series of videos on Flashback Fridays. I have almost the complete collection of game products and will be releasing new videos every couple of weeks as I get the books read and a review written. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you get notified when new videos are released. Now, Interceptor was released in 1987. It was designed by Jordan Weissman, Albie Fiore, Sam Lewis, L. Ross Babcock III, and David Wiley, with the primary rules being written by L. Ross Babcock. Now, it features single and two-seat starfighter combat, and it introduces players to the Terran Overlord government and the Commonwealth. Interceptor was a follow-on from the 1984 release of Battletech, originally known as Battle Droids, and 1986's Aerotech. And while the games share some features such as hex-based movement, a variety of different weapon systems, and galaxy-spanning storylines, Interceptor added a variety of features that would change how the game played while still keeping it familiar. For this video, we're just going to do an unboxing of the game as it would have been sold in 1993. There are a couple of small differences from the original game that I will point out as we go, but for the most part, this is the game that a purchaser of the game would have seen. So, alright, first off, we have the, I'm going to call it traditional FASA Games box, where it's a black box, about 2 inches thick, and great piece of art on the front. We've got one of the TOG spacefighters. Very bold, very it's something that's gonna just jump off the shelf and catch you. On the back, we've got a little bit of art showing a TOG fighter pilot and a Renegade Legion fighter pilot. So just a little bit about the story, because I'll be honest, I have a lot to learn. The Terran Overlord government basically is an analog to ancient Rome at the height of its powers. So that's where you see names like legionnaires and centurions and things like that. And the Renegade Legions were renegade factions that left the Terran Overlord government and joined the Commonwealth. Okay, so those are your two main factions. Got a little bit of background because we've got different fighter squadrons here, and we've got a list of components that we're gonna find inside. All right, so open this up, and all right, so this is nice. We've got a FASA Corporation catalog, but also Renegade Legion is a D10 based system, so you get 1 D10, and from my initial reading of the rules, that's basically all you need. Okay. Quick look at the catalog. We've got Shadowrun 2nd edition, 1st edition having been released, I believe, in 1990. Lots of Shadowrun background. PC and Super Nintendo games. Man, I feel old. Battletech games. More Battletech. Lots of Battletech. And Renegade Legion. So, little bit of a flashback. That was kind of fun. I did open this a little earlier just to kind of, peek at the contents. And sneak the rulebook out so I could start reading it. But anyways, it was a nice flashback. So, all right. So we've got, first off, our rulebook, which was done in, I'm going to call it the typical FASA landscape mode. Set that to the side for a second. All right. So starts off, has a few pages of color plates, starting with the TOGs, and showing off some of their space fighters, including the different stats. Let's zoom in a little bit. I like how they did the cutaways. In addition to the covered portions of the armor, kind of giving you like a very very technical manual type feeling, to these designs. They've also got some very unique designs, I think. Definitely, their own thing, but also, taking inspiration from like Buck Rogers, which would have been, at least in reruns. But I also like how they did it in full color. Now, I'm not 100% certain that they did full color on the original print run. They may not have, but they were also a few years into production, so, would not surprise me. All right, so let's zoom back out, or actually zoom in a little bit. So this is our table of contents. One thing that I actually like about this, as you can see here, basically these first two columns, this is pretty much all you need for the rules. There is this column of additional rules, so but 30 pages, lots of diagrams, lots of pictures. It's very much a classic book. But then also we've got ship construction rules, scenarios, background, roots of the Terran Republic, Terran Overlord Government, Commonwealth, technology, the Shenandoah County campaign area. So you're getting a lot of information in this up front. Especially coming off something like Battletech. That at this point would have had a significant amount of backstory involved. It's going to be pretty necessary at that point. All right, this is one thing I do want to point out. I'll actually show it a little bit closer when I get to the other components. This is one thing that I was really interested about with Renegade Legion. So the damage in Battletech, like each weapon has a damage rating, just a certain amount of points that it will do. It'll do 10 points of damage or 5 points of damage, whatever it is. Whereas for Renegade Legion, they went with these templates, and so it would depend on what weapon you're using. So like in this case, we've got a mass driver cannon, missiles, neutron particle cannons, electron particle cannons, and based on how much damage the weapon did, you would figure out where it hit on either your fighter or the Centurion grav tanks, and then you would do damage according to the template. So if you keep hitting the same location, you can actually punch through the armor and get into the internal structure in a different format. And so I like how weapons weren't relegated to just range and the amount of damage they do. There were strategic reasons to use particular weapons and try to hit particular locations. So how well it plays, I don't know. I haven't played the game yet. But it is one of those things that I've always looked at, always thought was really interesting, and always wanted to try. So there we go. But again, rules, pretty text heavy, but for the most part, pretty reasonable, especially for what I expected from games at the time. Again, lots of diagrams, lots of art. The FASA black and white line art I absolutely love most of the FASA art and the way that it looked. So, all right, I'm going to flip through most of this because, let's be honest, it's a rule book. So it's lots of rules, and I'm not reading you all the rules. But I also like how they did give instructions for creating your own space fighters. That's a huge aspect of Battletech, and the fact, and it does not surprise me that they wanted to bring it over to Renegade Legion as well. Here we have an example of a record sheet for Interceptor, and this gets to kind of the second thing that I found that I was really curious about the game. I mean, we have a damage flow chart, okay? So based on where you get hit, different dice rolls take you around the flow chart, affecting different weapon systems, different pieces of equipment, different flight controls, things like that. You then also have over here, you have your list of weapons, your armor, and other relevant stats. So it's clearly a lot more complex than games of Battletech, but I think that's going to give it its own flavor that's going to be really interesting for play. Let's see. Got another record sheet, and then we've got a map of Shenandoah County, which is the key to the Renegade Legion setting. All right, and finally in the rulebook, we've got color plates for the Renegade Legions. So we've got our blue guys. We've got their fighters. If this is your first time here, this is my notoriously small recording space. But again, just nice, unique designs, stuff that I think, is reminiscent to some classic science fiction, but also just some, great 80s science fiction. Absolutely love how they did this. So that is the rulebook. And then we've got, as was also pretty typical, they would put the important charts on the back of the book. All right. Back to the box. So next we have a construction worksheet. So if you're going to be building your own fighters, so basically figuring out what kind of engines, controls, shields, armor. We then go into record sheets for space stations, for patrol craft, more patrol craft, interceptors, and again, all of these flowcharts, more interceptors, more interceptors, more interceptors. All right. This is one of our first differences. So, actually, this is not, but so we get, again, classic FASA art for space stations. Here is one of the damage templates, so you would... I don't want to make a mess out of this. Yes, I realize that I am taking my perfectly unpunched copy and punching things, but I got this to play, not to collect and sit on a counter. In fact, the box did have shrink wrap on it when I got it, so... I mean, say what you will, but that's my choice. Anyways, but you would then go through, punch out the little templates, and then when you would take your damage, you would put this over the armor box and cover off or color in that many boxes. So you get 2 of those. We've got 2 space stations, asteroids, satellites. So let's see. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right. And so this, I am not sure if they did different. I think these would have remained the same. The next sheet, however, this is different for the 1993 version of the printing. Originally, the fighters, instead of just giving you a counter like these are single-sided, just two-dimensional representations. They actually gave you little cardboard boxes that you would fold up and assemble, so that they would stand off of the playmats. But in this case, it's flat, square tokens. These I might leave unpunched, and I might laser cut some acrylic ones, but I haven't decided yet. We'll see. But regardless, takes that art, puts a little bit of color on it, makes it look good, and I do not understand the distribution because it is clearly not exactly the same on each side, but it does look like you get at least a couple of each of the different starfighters. Then you also have a couple of these. These are, I believe, frigates. Technically part of Leviathans, but Interceptor is supposed to support very, very small capital scale ships. But I could also be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Remember, unboxing, I've not really seen this before. All right, we then get to the star maps. Now, the star maps in the original were glossy. These have a matte finish. I actually prefer the matte finish in most cases. And they are single-sided, so you don't have two different map options. And they are just plain space. No planets. Nothing else. You get two of these, and they are identical. All right. Last couple of things. So Night Shift Games was a company that licensed Renegade Legion towards the end, and tried to keep it going. They put out a source book, a scenario book, and they tried to put out a regular newsletter. They got about 3 issues out and then quit. I think overall they might have ended up just with, like 3 things put out. So unfortunately, we did not see this continue on, which is a little sad. They also mention this Phalanx Streets of Blood. I'm guessing that might have been a different game. My suspicion, just off of that name, would be something similar to Battle Troops or Shadowrun DMZ, Downtown Militarized Zone, which were essentially the same game system, but one was for Battletech, one was for Shadowrun. And it was, man-sized infantry-style combat. So Renegade Legion has the role-playing game, but didn't have, any kind of like a skirmish level system. So that would have been nice to see. It is also interesting. I suspect one could get a copy of Battle Troops and try that out, but I don't know. Anyways, so this was just an advertisement saying, hey, sign up for our newsletter back in the old days when they would actually mail it to you, as opposed to just email. And then finally, the last piece in here, we have a mail order form for fall of 1993, with all prices good until December 31st. of 1993. Looking at this, actually, you know what? I know my super professional production levels here. All right. So let's actually zoom in and take a look at this just so we can kind of compare. So these were roughly original retail prices. Probably had bumped up a little bit. But as you can see, our box games, we were looking at $25 a piece. Legionnaire was a book, so $20, and Prefect, one of the games that I will actually be looking at here soon. Doing an unboxing. I did get a brand new copy of that, at $30. So, still, again, for 30 years ago, those are roughly analogous to prices that we have today. Obviously today you've got wooden components or plastic miniatures or all sorts of things that have upgraded the quality, but I think, especially for the time, I mean, the technology has changed, the ability to produce better and more complex products has improved. But regardless, there's a lot of just fun, interesting content. And even then, it was still reasonable. I remember buying books for about $20 at the time. As a teenager, I could do that. So I like that the games were very approachable, were very, easy to get into. As far as the actual game itself, looking at this, as I've said, at least a couple of times now, it just kind of hits me in the nostalgia feels. I was into FASA products at the time, and the way that they produced their games, I think, at least for me, was very different at the time. It wasn't a simple game like Monopoly, but it was also from a company that did things that I liked. They did Battletech, they did Shadowrun. I followed all of those for years. I do regret not knowing this one at the time and being able to play it when I was a kid and had a little bit more time for that. But I'm excited to try it now. I think it is going to be a bit complex. Looking at those flowcharts is kind of nuts, but I do know in the Renegade Legion International Facebook group, there's a gentleman that's been putting up record sheets for all of the different ships that are highlighted and color coded, so might make playing the game a little bit easier. I'll definitely have to give those a try. But overall, like I said, it was a fun look back at games from 30 years ago. Games have gotten really complex. You've seen some of if you're not new to the channel, you've probably seen some of my unboxings where fancy models and terrain and all sorts of stuff included. So I think it'll be good to go a little retro for a while. But overall, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I will be back in a couple of weeks, hopefully with a small gameplay video. But until then, if you enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, share it with other people who may appreciate this look down memory lane. And like I've said, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I'll be putting out videos for Renegade Legion every couple of weeks, but I do still try to get 2 to 3 videos out every week covering board games, miniature games, card games, and anything in between. Just because I like tabletop games. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.